What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Tip for Tuesday. So, got me and Brian here today. And today's tip, we wanted to kind of talk about a topic that I think happens a lot that everyone can kind of take something away from today. And that's when you're trying to wholesale a property that's off market, and maybe someone approaches you who's a real estate agent and they want to bring their buyer to take a look and kind of how to handle that. So, I'll kind of start off here. So, when you're kind of in that situation, um, the biggest hurdle you're going to have is that most real estate agents, they're not used to the wholesale process. So first thing you want to do if an agent kind of reaches out and says, hey, I got a buyer for this, you're going to want to kind of lay the groundwork and say, okay, well, this is how this deal is structured. I have this property under contract. I'm not licensed. I'm selling the contract to your buyer. And here's the terms that already have agreed, laid out with the seller. They're going to cover the closing costs, and they're going to probably assume taxes, whatever you agreed with the seller when you made that deal. And your buyer, for whatever your company terms are, if they need to put earnest money down to hold it, if not, kind of let them know beforehand, and just make it known that, hey, we're selling the contract to your buyer. I'm not, because their agents are licensed and they're going to probably hound you on that. They're going to ask if you're licensed as well, but just explain the wholesale process, and things should go smoothly. And another thing is, if you open your buyers for them to bring their agents in, I think it helps your reputation and kind of makes you more of a legitimate wholesaler, because you're not like blacklisting someone like, hey, if you have an agent, I can't work with you. That's kind of a red flag. Um,
Yeah, before you move on, I want to kind of go back to that because I think that's really important. Of just a little thing of like asking, of like, I just like to kind of put it out there like, hey, so I have this under contract. I'm basically wholesaling. That is what I'm doing. Are you familiar with that process? Just asking the agents because if not, they're going to assume that you're the seller, that you're the person that is, trying to sell the property, that you are informed on all the disclosures and all that type
right.
of stuff. That's when the agent's kind of expecting. It's just asking them, making sure they understand the process of what you're doing, I think is really important. And it's okay to ask. It's not just okay. Like, you should ask that just to make sure they are, because some agents are familiar with it. They're okay with it. Their investors are used to it and stuff like that. And some agents aren't. And some agents need to be educated on a little bit of just kind of talk through that. So I think it's a big thing. I didn't want to kind of skip over that, Randy, as you were kind of just pointing that out. I think it's a really big
No.
point and a really big thing to kind of focus on there.
Yeah, that's huge. And then another thing they're going to want to ask, because agents, they make commissions for a living. So since you're not licensed, the seller did not sign a listing agreement, so no one's obligated to pay that agent a commission. So you're just going to lay that groundwork out and say, hey, if your buyer does like this property, they're going to have to take it at this price, and then if whatever commission you want to make on top of that, they're going to just have to add it to the price, and the difference will be paid out at closing. So would love to work with you, but the commission is going to have to be between your buyer and yourself. My seller has not agreed to pay any commissions out. That was the agreement we made. So they're just looking for a quick close. So that's the groundwork you want to lay. And typically, that's usually works better for the agent, because they could probably make more money, because like 3% is like a general rule around here. And that's a few $100s, where the agent could probably charge a minimum of $1,500 to work with that buyer. So
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it works out for everyone. So anything else you want to add, Brian?
Yeah, just two other things. I think when you're working with agents, a lot of times agents are used to the taxes being prorated and like splitting closing cost, or the buyer covering closing costs or seller covering closing costs, either or. A lot of them are kind of stuck in that kind of, hey, I'm used to filling out a purchase agreement this way, and this is what I always do, this type of thing. So make sure you're having that conversation so the agent and whoever the buyer is informed on, hey, who's paying closing, what's going on with it, what's going on with the taxes, because this transaction is going to be a little bit different a lot of times than they're used to on the retail side or just a traditional sale. So just be careful, make sure you cover that stuff, make sure everything is informed between, the seller, yourself, the agent, and the buyer and the title company. All five of those people need to be in the loop, knowing what's going on, who's paying for what, just being the clear and be upfront with all that stuff. Like I said, so that's really important. But I really like what Randy said too on don't limit yourself to like, oh, you're working with an agent, you're an agent, I can't go through you or anything like that, because you're eliminating a lot of buyers that do work with agents or having agents on there. And a lot of buyers that are working with investors that are used to buying from wholesalers, they're used to paying the commission on top. Their agent is doing the work, so they'll pay them for that. And that's quite all right. So, invite those people, make sure agents that work with investors are on your buyers list, always reach out to them. I think it's a big thing. Communicate with them regularly, see what their buyers, generally a buyer that has an agent working with them or for them, are going to buy a lot of properties. So make sure, like I said, you have them on the buyer's list. You're updating their criteria. You're talking to the agent as much as you're talking to the buyer sometimes. Just building out that rapport and figuring out that reputation or that relationship is a big thing there. So awesome. So great stuff. So Randy, that's a great topic. And I think that's about it. You got anything else to cover on this one?
No, that's it. Just be open to working with everyone. That's the tip here, including
Awesome.
agents. So thanks, guys. We'll see you next week on next Tuesday's Tip for Tuesday.